Welcome to the Thriving Christian Artist, the podcast where we hope you connect with God to bust through the roadblocks that have held you back for years, create the work you love, and really live the life you know God created you to live as an artist in His kingdom. I'm Matt Thomas, your host. Let's get started. Well, hey there, my friend. I'm so glad that you're with me here on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to sharing this interview with you with my friend Debra Lynn, who is an incredible artist who's been on such a journey over the last 10, 20 years as an artist. She's going to be sharing a lot of that journey. But here's the really, really beautiful thing that I think you're going to get out of this podcast. Debra's story is one of supernatural provision, supernatural demonstration of the Holy Spirit through her work, through her business, and also what happens when you and I really get tenacious, don't give up, lean into the spiritual grit that we've all got to have in this life in order to pursue the things that God calls us to. Listen, when you do that, that's when you begin to see incredible things happen in your life. And Debra's story is one that exemplifies this in a huge, huge way. She literally goes from no electricity in her house for 4 months just so she could create art. And very, very soon after that, this series of supernatural events where she's literally walking in to a gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico on Canyon Road. I mean, you're talking like the high end of the high end art galleries, and automatically gets accepted by this gallery and starts selling pieces and is still selling them today in there. It's incredible. I can't wait for you to hear this story, but it just is a great, great, great testimony of what God will do when you don't give up. All right. Now, listen, you know I love to celebrate our listeners and all you guys that are listening all over the world. And I want to choose this one today. It's from Lynn Hall Art. And she says, Thriving Christian Artist. I've been listening to Matt's podcasts and webinars for the last couple of years, and I'm now a part of his Created to Thrive Artist Mentoring Group. I appreciate so much his teachings and seeing Matt take his story to show how God's glory in his heart to see others thrive in life and art. I highly recommend this podcast and the Created to Thrive mentoring program as well. Heart emoji, heart emoji. Well, Lynn Hall, thank you so much for your heartfelt review. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. And I love all you guys. You know, I love it. I love all you guys that listen. I especially love you guys that listen that are part of our Created to Thrive Artist Mentoring Program. That's like family. I mean, we're coming up on 4 years of having the mentoring program, and it's just been such an incredible journey to see real transformation happening in people's lives. If you don't know anything about that, stay tuned. Later on in the year, actually starting in August, you're going to start hearing me talk about that a little more. We open the doors for the mentoring program twice a year, once in January, once in September. And so you'll hear us talking about it here on the podcast. You're going to hear some incredible stories coming up in late summer about people's lives who are in the program who have absolutely been radically changed. Their businesses changed, their lives changed, their mindsets changed, their art changed. And we're going to be telling those stories. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, Lynn, thank you for that heartfelt review. And again, for all of you guys that are listening every week, subscribing and reviewing, don't stop. Please continue to share. We're now over 400,000 downloads on this podcast. I can't wait till we hit 500,000 and then 1 million. I mean, I'm just like, God, what are you doing? It's so incredible. And you're a part of it. You, the listener, are what's making this happen. And you are what fuels our passion as a team to create resources that really equip you and empower you to be everything that God's called you to be. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here today. And I'm going to get out of the way, and you're going to love this interview that I did with my friend, Debra Lynn. All right, bye. Well, hey there, my friend. I'm so glad that you're with me here on the podcast today. I've got my friend Debra, who we have been friends for a while now over the years. She's an incredible artist. And Debra, I am so glad that you're with me here today on the podcast. Welcome.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. This is so exciting.
I know it. I've loved watching your story over the years. We got to know each other, I guess, in the early days of the Created to Thrive mentoring program. You were one of the were you in the original group or like one of the first people that was in the mentoring
Within the
program? I
first
mean,
couple months of when you started it, yes.
yeah, I remember because I remember you were doing those henna tattoos and you were doing all kind of just. I was like, wow, she is so awesome, But you're such an incredible artist. So tell everybody kind of who you are, what you're doing right now, and then we'll kind of jump into a little bit of your backstory.
Okay, I'm Debra Lynn, and I have Debra Lynn Studios. And after a rather crazy, convoluted journey, I have come to the place where I paint deep space. And what I do is I illuminate the night because I use rare earth elements in my paint that absorb light. So painting something you can only see in the dark also becomes a painting in the dark. So
Wow.
they glow at night. They absorb light all day and give it off through the night. And because the chemicals or elements actually are what they are, that it will last 40 years.
Wow.
It will
Wow.
glow at night for anywhere from 12 to 16 hours for 40 years.
My goodness.
So it's
Incredible.
kind of fun. Yeah, I know. It was one of those things. I saw an artist in Australia that did it. And I'm like, Lord, I want to do that, but I don't have the resources or the courage.
Yeah.
And he took care of that problem. And it changed my life. Everything pivoted when I started
Wow.
stepping into this. And
Wow.
but the story does really go way back. I didn't get here in a day.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I love, right? None of us kind of show up. You see us now, you see people now, but you don't know their story. So roll back the tape. I mean, what's life
Okay.
been like for you over the last few years, and how'd you get to the place where you are now? And
Well, I did actually, my very first art experience was painting a bathroom red with lipstick. Yeah, it didn't go over so well. Uh, yeah, but that creative bone was in there from apparently an early age. But like a lot of people in my generation, parents are like, you can't make money in it, and it was discouraged.
Hmm.
But fortunately, I had an art teacher when I was in middle school who recognized my gift and started pulling strings so that I could take extra art courses. And went to college, but I chose to get married instead of finishing my degree. Unfortunately, I did marry a gentleman who thought art was fluff and
Hmm.
something you did when you had everything else done, which meant
Wow.
new art.
Right. Right.
um, it sat on a shelf for 20 years, and due to choices other people make that you can't control, that marriage came to an end. Part of that also was my fault in that I made a choice myself, and um, I had come to my place in my walk with the Lord where what I was reading in my Bible and what I was living in church and I don't know, what I was told was being a good Christian.
Right.
They weren't
Right.
the same.
Whatever that means, right? We don't
Yeah.
know.
I just know that my life and the lives that I looked at when I read the Bible, when I read the Gospels, they were not the same.
Yeah.
And it was either he's the same God and I have something wrong, or he had changed.
Wow.
So I made a rather radical prayer. I really, really do not suggest anybody pray this unless they mean it with every ounce of their being. But I did.
Disclaimer, right? So,
I laid my hand on my open Bible and I said, Lord, I want what's in these pages. And if I can't
mm,
have it, I don't want to live anymore because I feel
wow.
like I live a lie.
Wow.
And I do not want to live a lie again. And I don't care what it costs, but I
Mm,
got to have this or it's got to stop.
wow.
I can't pretend anymore. And it did actually end up costing me everything. At one point, obviously, it cost my marriage. And because of that, I was crucified by the church that I was a part of, and most of the churches in the area of which I lived, which was North Central Kentucky at the time. And I had no family because they lived here in Florida. So I walked that road alone, but with Lord, and we drew really close. In that drawing, he had me start doing art again. And I didn't have the courage. So I started teaching art. And there came a day when all of a sudden that dried up. And I'm like, Lord, what's the deal? He said, I told you it's time to fish off the other side of the boat.
The creek has dried up, right? That happens sometimes.
So
I
he said,
think God has to do that sometimes to get our attention, though, right? I mean, it's like
yes,
the
truly.
provision or the opportunity is coming in one way, and we get so comfortable there that unless that dries up, we'll always stay there. So
I was guilty. So
yeah,
I he said, I didn't call you to teach, I called you to paint. And so
mm,
I started painting a little here, a little there. And the door opened for me to do what is recognized today as worship or prophetic art during worship
right,
service. Um, Mine was a little bit uniquely different in that I would actually have called me a illustrator, because he would give me imagery of what he wanted to say. And I literally would just, like, for instance, if you got a prophetic word for a body, I would get the image of it and I
right,
would paint the image and I would complete it in that time. Unfortunately, a lot of times it was not always an easy word, or it freaked people out too bad because it was so close right on. And I was uninvited to a few churches. So, yeah. But in that season, I was told that my art would go to the world. So I thought I
mm,
was going to be traveling around the world taking this art.
yeah,
I ended up in Podunk, nowhere, Kentucky, and a part of a small, teeny tiny international ministry. And instead of me going to the world, he brought that world to me.
mm,
And my art went into 26, I think now, countries around the world.
wow, wow,
Yeah, only he could do that kind of thing. Um, but once again, that door shut. I had this open vision, and I saw the four walls of the church just literally blow out, explode. Stones went everywhere.
mm,
The only thing that was left were the trusses, the roof, and the support poles. And I'm like, what's this about? He said, it's time to take this outside the four walls.
mm,
I'm like, okay, I have no clue how to do that. So from 2010 until 2019, I scrambled and tried everything under God's green earth to do
to
art.
make it happen, right?
I even did prophetic henna. I mean, like, I was trying to make it happen. But there did come a day in 2017, and I said, Lord, if I never do another henna, I'll be okay.
Yeah,
But if
yeah,
I don't ever paint again, I won't. And so I got real still and quiet with him. And I really felt impressed by him that I didn't take what I was given seriously enough.
mm,
So I turned my focus into painting. So I painted, I live in Florida. I live in a small tourist town. Nobody's interested in fine art. They want beach art. Not that beach art can't be fine art, but
right, right,
we're talking not, the galleries here are more like co-ops
yeah,
of
sure,
artists. They're how do I explain? They're more like gift shops than
okay,
they are actually galleries, and they want gift art.
mm-hmm.
So I painted sea turtles and baby birds and
Right, right,
beach scenes, and I hated every last flipping minute of it.
mm,
I did it because I needed to support myself, and it somewhatly did. Um, I did commission work. I painted anything that was sent to me. I even tried live event art where I painted weddings as they took place. Took
right,
7
right.
of those for me to figure out that's not what I wanted to do. Hauling
You
a
have to do
whole
those
art,
things sometimes, though, right? Feel
yeah.
like that is not my niche. That is not what I'm going for, right?
And I knocked on this door and I knocked on that door and it didn't open and that didn't open, and I get an A for effort. Um, and finally, let's see, in October 2018, I went to a new gallery that had opened that was supposed to be an actual art gallery.
Mm.
And I showed him a little bit of what I'd done to the guy there. And let me back up a minute too. I also did art shows, where you set up the tent and sweat
Yeah,
your
sure,
brains
sure.
out
We've
and
all done it.
tried selling art. One time I only sold a print for $15. That was the whole show. But I was like, I can't do this.
This is not for me.
No, and when you
Well,
do it by yourself, it's hard. Yeah.
I was just going to say that, I look back at my own journey and I hear this from so many artists. I think that, while we can look back at those things and be like, I'm so glad I'm not doing that anymore, I didn't waste more time on it. I think we all have to go through those times to clarify what it is that we want, who we are, I remember asking the Lord, when I moved to Asheville, I was like, oh, if I could just get my baskets when I was doing functional baskets at the time. I said, if I could just get them at the Biltmore House, that'll be so great because there's so many people going through that place. And so they bought my wine bottle baskets that I was making at the time, which was fabulous. Well, then they started ordering them like 30 and 40 at a time. And I'm like, I don't want to make 30 and 40 of anything, and so you become a victim of your own success. But it helped me, and that's what I'm hearing in your story right now. It helped me to clarify that it was like, I thought that's what I wanted, but that's not exactly. So let me keep pressing. Let me keep listening. Let me keep on the journey. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing from you as well.
Yeah. And when I went to the Lord, I was like, why? I mean, I've been asking you, what direction do you want me to go in? And there was no real clarity. And I'm like, I don't understand.
We're looking from this A to B point, like, right, take me from here to there and we'll be fine, right? Let's get on with it, right?
Straight line, no less.
Exactly.
And he said, but Deb, it's really as important that you find out what you don't want to do as it is that you find what your heart beats for.
Come on, yeah.
And I can't say that I thoroughly enjoyed that process, but
right.
I can say that I impacted a lot of lives in that process.
Yeah.
And I had someone observe looking through a lot of my prophetic art. They're like, do you recognize that you have this space theme that keeps going through? And I knew that I had this real heart for heavens to invade earth. We're not supposed to take the earth to the heavens or to him. It's supposed to come here.
Yeah.
And so I started doing a series of paintings that I think you can see it back here behind me. It's a tiger and there's a nebula and there's water falling out. I did stuff like that, and angels, real ethereal looking angels with the space coming down. So it was like this heaven connecting with man. And it had some success, but not like you. It was going to become a wine basket.
Yeah.
I was going to have to do an awful lot of those. And I'm like, but I wasn't quite feeling it. I'm like, Lord, I'm still not on the mark. And when I went to this art gallery and showed him my work, he loved it. He said, I'd love for you to bring some pieces. And it's one of those where you rent the wall space and then they take a lesser percentage. And so I took my pieces in. I took 11 for him to choose from because it was only a 5-foot wide wall space by 8 feet. It doesn't take long for you to figure out. You can't put a whole lot in that space. And he said, I'll keep them all. And I said, I'm not paying for more wall space. He said, I'll find wall space and I won't charge you. And I said, okay, good.
Wow.
So I had tried when I was doing the art shows to do some acrylic space paintings, and everybody loved them, but nobody bought them. And they weren't expensive. They just didn't go. And I was like, okay. And so I ended up giving them away, all but one. And it was the Butterfly Nebula. And so that was one of the pieces that I took to him. And he said, I want this piece right here. Not this one because it was in soft pastels. He said, but I love deep space and I always get a piece from my artist for my own collection. And I would like you to do me one of these. So I went back in after the new year of 2019 and I gave him the imagery because what people a lot of times don't realize that when you see the images online of all the beautiful nebulas in space, and say, for instance, a real familiar one is the Orion Nebula. Well, you can see it in about 14 different color formats.
Wow.
And that's because most of the images, especially Hubble's in particular, when it comes in, it's black and white. And they assign colors to the gases or the light frequencies. And depending on what colors they choose and whether they're attaching it to a light frequency or to a gas emission, or I forget what the other thing is, it's red light, but anyway, that said, it determines what it looks like. Okay, so we have some visual light that comes in some of the telescope images, but it can be played with and altered, and that's why you see such a variety. So that's what I actually start with, is black and white originals. And then I add color. Sometimes I follow a pattern. I like the combination. Sometimes me and the Lord just add color. But that's kind of how that works. That's my freedom, is the color.
That's right.
Yeah. So I took in a him to choose, what color format do you want your butterfly in? And so he chose one. Well, I got to talking to him about this other artist that also did this phosphorescence. I said, this is the coolest thing, and I would so love to do this. He said, I got an idea. I'll trade you the cost of wall space for however much that you need. And I want you to make me one of these, make me your guinea pig. And so I got this commission for a phosphorescent butterfly nebula painting.
Right.
And the process, there are no how-to videos because I'm only one of 3 artists in the world that do fine art, deep space, glow in the dark. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So
There's
I mean,
no
there might be
YouTube channel to go to and learn from, right? So.
Yeah, there are no YouTube how-tos, and these really are rare earth elements. Some of my elements come from a nuclear company. I kid you not.
Wow.
So there are 3 different elements. There's one I've never heard pronounced. I have no idea how you pronounce it. But the first one is the europium. The second one is the strontium aluminate. And then this diasporium stuff. I have no idea. It starts with the D, okay? It's on the periodic table. That's all I know.
Wow.
But they all, in their different ways, absorb and give off light. And the one with the longest light absorbing capacity is the europium. And they're powders. And especially the powders that come from the nuclear company are not encapsulated and cannot be mixed with anything water-based. I have to mix it with oil.
Wow.
So finding which medium worked well with these powders, because it's like, I told someone one time, oil is like painting with soft butter. When you make the paint out of the strontium and all those other elements, it's like painting with mashed potatoes. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a whole different ball
Ball of wax. Yeah.
Yes. And so there was a steep learning curve, but because it's oils, there's also long drying time. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do one, I might as well do several, and I can just kind of streamline them. And so I did, and I started that. And in March, I had a choice. All of my savings had kind of run out, and I either needed to get a job, or I was going to get the joy of living without electricity. And so
either one, out. Just kind of trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah. And I really felt so strongly that I needed to do, and there was no reason why I couldn't paint without electricity. So I did. I chose to not get a job, and for 4 months I lived without electricity.
So that I could finish.
Yeah, so that I could finish these paintings.
Wow. And
it was kind of actually neat because it created a rhythm that I didn't realize that our electricity doesn't allow us to have anymore. And so when the sun went down, that meant I'm done.
Yeah.
And I could walk away and not feel guilty that I'm not working longer because I have lights, and I could relax. And fortunately, I live in a condo complex, so I could charge my phone and all that kind of stuff in the clubhouse. So I didn't really have to, I didn't suffer too awful bad.
Right.
And fortunately, it was also a cool spring here in Florida, so that was really nice. It was a gift. God knew he does those things. And but I got 5 paintings done out of that time frame, and he ended up actually selecting a different one. He wanted a bigger. It was the Pinwheel Galaxy,
right?
Which is actually a remake of it. Is up there, and. This is God. This is how crazy he is, Matt. Okay, so I don't have electricity. I'm living basically off of ramen, okay, to do this. And someone calls up and says, we had a cancellation on our cruise group. Would you like to go on a Caribbean cruise?
Get out of town.
So I got to go on a Caribbean cruise. And actually,
you're like on the buffet, you're eating all the food. This is great.
I'm just shaking my head going, I can't believe this.
I love it though.
But I did. I stepped in because I didn't know this, but on Caribbean cruises, they sell 3 things. They sell alcohol, they sell jewelry, and they sell art.
Art, right.
And it's a big thing, their art gallery and art shows and all that. So I actually approached them with the images of what I had. And they said, if you can figure out how to get this printed, come talk to us because we're interested.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, God, I'm on to something. And the same week I got that phone call, I got another one from a friend who needed to go to New Mexico to see her granddaughter graduate in New Mexico, and she had a son that lived in South New Mexico. But
Mm.
at that time, she wasn't able to drive, so she said, could you please come and be my driver? And as a thank you, I will take you to Santa Fe for 3 days. And
Wow.
so it was a 3,500-mile road trip.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
not around the corner. Hello.
No. But again, this stuff was so new. I didn't even have a business card. I didn't have it, that when you're submitting to a gallery, there's this whole list of things you're supposed to come in with your
Yeah, the process and all
artist
that. Sure. Yeah.
bio and your pedigree and all that kind of stuff. I had nothing. I had a phone with some pictures on it and the canvases in the back of the vehicle. Okay.
So you took the actual paintings with you. That's smart. That's
Yes, I
great.
was like,
Yes.
I don't know why I'm supposed to take these with me, but I feel
Mm.
like I am. And
Yeah.
so if I bring them back, I bring them back. I'm not out anything, but at
Right.
least I won't, if I need them, I will have them. And so I loaded them up in the back of this van she had rented for us to take for the trip. And as you know how things go. So we get to Santa Fe, and it had worked out that we were supposed to get this Airbnb up in Durango, Colorado, because where she was going was to Farmington. And I've always wanted to go to Colorado. Mountains are my thing. The
Right.
ocean's pretty, but it doesn't do my heart like the mountains.
Right.
I
Right.
envy
Right.
your
Sure.
mountains. I'm just going to
I'm
say,
a
okay,
mountain guy.
you understand. Mountains and me, we like each other. So I was really looking forward to doing that, and I had found out that it didn't go through, and we weren't going to be able to go.
Mm.
And everything was like kind of crashing in, and being tired and stressed, and then everything falling apart, not knowing where we were going to stay. And it was Memorial Day weekend, so everything was booked. Even if we wanted new
Wow.
reservations, it was really hard to find anything. And so I had a full-blown, honest-to-God pity party.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, what'd you bring me on this trip for? So, I also have to add that when I found out I was going to New Mexico and going to Santa Fe, someone said, well, you need to go see what galleries you want to. I had no
Yeah.
clue. I'd never been there. I didn't know it was in
Primo.
a
Primo.
constant.
Right.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
a constant struggle with Los Angeles for being the second largest art market in the United States behind New
Yes.
York City.
Right.
And so, and there's a Canyon Road. I didn't know what Canyon Road was, but it has 100 galleries on it, and it's the elite place to be.
Right.
Um, so the next day we go to downtown Santa Fe, and we don't get to Canyon Road, but we go through some other galleries. And I had that one and several other people when I found out I was going saying, there's this gallery on Canyon Road I really feel like you're supposed to go to.
Wow.
Okay, what is it? I don't know. I can't remember.
Thanks a lot.
And then when I found out there was 100 galleries, I'm like, okay, guys, this is a needle in a
Here we
haystack.
go. Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, Lord. So I go in this gorgeous gallery in downtown Santa Fe, and the girl loves my work and even shows it to her boss. But it's not the art of their gallery. It was
Right.
more Southwest art. Excuse me. And she said, but there's this gallery on Canyon Road.
Do you know the name by chance? Right.
I can't remember the name of it, but it's really where you need to go. I'm like, okay. So that was like the sixth person that had told me about this gallery, but couldn't remember the name. Even the person that I was with had gone to that gallery on her honeymoon. She could remember it was a British lady that owned it, and it was on Canyon Road, but she couldn't remember where, and she couldn't remember the name either.
Get
So I'm like, okay, Lord, you got this. I don't know. And
Right.
and it also had snowed the day we arrived, by the way. This is Memorial Day weekend, and it snowed. So it was kind of brisk that day. And then the next day it was a little bit warmer, so we head to Canyon Road. And we start up at the top, I think, somewhere at a tea room. And again, people say I've never met a stranger. I was raised in the military. If you wanted to have friends, you couldn't know strangers. You had to
Right.
just engage people. So I don't have problems talking with folks. I tend to sense if they're open. If they are, I'll approach them. And so I had gone into this one gallery and she wasn't very open, but we ended up going back in because the woman that I was with wanted to see another piece in that gallery. And so I started talking to her, and the Lord knows when you're about, like at the end of your rope.
Yeah.
And so she said, I need to tell you something. I said, what? She said, I've seen a lot of art. I've been doing this for 30 years. I said, yes. She said, I've seen some good art and I have seen some bad art. She said, but every once in a while I see art that moves me. And your art moved me. Do
Wow.
not stop.
Wow.
Keep knocking until you find it. No, it doesn't fit in my gallery, but that doesn't mean I don't value it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, God, I got it. You got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we go through several more galleries. It's coming to the end of the day. They're only going to be open maybe 30 more minutes, I think, at that time. And we were in an actual artist co-op of different artists, and one of the artists were there, and we struck up a conversation, and because I loved his art. And when I showed him what I was doing, he says, "Oh my gosh, you have got to get to Longworth." And I said, "What?" He said,
Finally a name, right?
"You've got to get to Longworth Gallery." What's funny is, everybody talks about getting in shape. Well, round is a shape, and I'm round. Okay. And so this dude, I later find out, rides a bicycle to work. Okay. He's as big around as a pencil. And he's like, it's just a couple blocks down the road. And I'm like, okay.
Says the skinny guy on a bike, right?
His couple of blocks is like a half mile. All right.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get there before they closed. So I took my round, jiggly body and ran it down that road.
Because I got a name. Here we go.
I was like, because it was our last day. And so if I didn't make it then, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing, and people are just looking at me, and I'm going, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. I'm just not.
Dun, 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 dun. Right, here you go.
It was hilarious. I left my friend in the dust, but I got there, and there were other people. She was in, and it was a British lady. Her name is Lisa, and she was engaging other people that were in the gallery. And when it kind of had emptied out, my friend explained to her I was an artist. And she said, really? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, what do you paint? I said, deep space. And she said, huh. I said, I'm one of only 3 artists in the world that do what I do. But I have to tell you, I don't even have a business card. I don't have a pedigree. I just have art. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, that's pedigree enough for me. Let me have a look. So I showed her my phone. I mean, phones are handy dandy.
Yeah, sure.
So, I showed her my phone and what was on it. And she said, I like what I see. She said, but I've seen an awful lot of art on computers and phones that when I saw it in person, it was crap. And I'm like, okay. She said, you wouldn't by chance have any of this with you, would you?
Funny you should ask.
As a matter of fact, I do. She said, well, I have an appointment in just a few minutes, but if you can be back here in the morning at 10:30, you can have 5 to 10 minutes of my time.
Wow.
I said, okay. Only God can do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's the only way. And there's a lot of different belief systems out in Santa Fe. And the Lord had told me he was sending me to those because they were still his children and he loved them.
Right.
And so I end up in a metaphysical, somewhat new age art gallery. I go back. It doesn't take 10 to 5 minutes. It takes an hour and a half. She looks at them. We hang them. We take them down. She shows them to different people. Finally, she says, okay, I will keep the butterfly nebula. Back to that butterfly.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
The first one and the second one. I will keep the butterfly nebula, and we're just going to see what happens. And I said, okay. The next night, she was having her annual. This is one of the things I think is so fascinating about this woman. Is she genuinely cares about people. So every year, annually, she invites anybody and everybody that has anything that makes her gallery work, from the delivery guy to the person that does computer work to anybody, the people that do the shipping of her paintings. She invites them all in, has a big spread, invites the public and invites the artist so the artist can say thank you to these people that make their lives possible.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just really cool. I had
Yeah,
never heard
sure.
anything quite like that. And she invited us to it, but we were supposed to be heading to North New Mexico, which is about 3.5 hours away. So I leave her the painting. We get back to the Airbnb we're staying at. There's no signal out there because we're in the middle of nowhere, desert, New Mexico. Gorgeous, mind you, but still in the middle of nowhere. And so we're headed up and my phone rings and she's like, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes, I'm driving." She said, "Good, because 30 minutes after you walked out the door, I sold the Butterfly Nebula for $3,900. Okay, now you got to understand.
Come on, Jesus.
Yes, those 11 pieces of art that I left in that gallery, not one of them sold in a year, not one.
Wow.
And where she was selling this for $4.50 a square inch, I couldn't sell it for 75 cents a square inch in the other gallery.
Wow.
When you are doing what you're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
And I also have to say, Matt, I never, not ever, not once saw me as a gallery artist. Okay. I didn't ever think that that was a path God would have for me. I didn't see it coming. I didn't expect it. I was as surprised as everybody else. Yeah, I was just shocked. And I'm like, "Okay, what do we do now?" She said, "You still have those other 3 paintings?" I said, "Yes,
Turn the
ma'am,
car around, baby.
She said, "Well, can you come back tomorrow and attend the artist meet and greet and bring those 3 pieces?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." I looked at my, no, this isn't my car. This isn't my trip. I looked at her, I love you
We're
dearly.
going back to Santa Fe, right?
Well, she had to be there for her granddaughter and family. So I said, "I'm going to leave you with your family. I'm taking this vehicle back to Santa Fe."
Yeah.
So it was 3.5 hours there, spend the night, get out 3.5 hours back. But I get there and we hang it, and she pulled me aside. She said, "This is for normally the artist meet and greet." And she said, "And you are welcome because you are now," I forget what they call the temporary artist. She was offering me a 3-month contract to see how this did.
Right.
Normally it was a 2-month contract, but she had a good feeling about it, and so she gave me a 3-month. And she said, "But it might behoove you to stay back in that room and introduce people to your art as they come through tonight. But it's your choice." I stayed in the room. And the reason so is
because
that
I'm a talker and I'm from the South, and that's what we do, right?
Yes. But you have
How y'all doing? Come on in, right?
You have to demonstrate these paintings. I mean, because
sure.
and I hung up what's behind me the way I did so you could see what I did in acrylics and what I'm now doing in oils. And every time I've done this is my 3rd group of paintings I'm working on that's behind me, they go another step in quality. And I learn new ways to do things that enhance. And in order for people to see what she calls the magic is to turn the lights out and let them glow. And so the only room that was available in her gallery is split into 2 buildings with a courtyard in between. And there, unbeknownst to me at the time, there was a little bit of a hierarchy that there's the artist in the main building, that's the desired place to be, but the others are really glad to be in that side.
Yeah.
Well, the only room that was dark enough for my paintings was in the side that everybody wants to be in.
Wow.
Now, my art hangs next to Vladimir Kush's paintings that sell for $50,000.
Oh, come on. Well, and positioning is everything. Positioning is everything in the market. I mean, so hello, right? You automatically get seen as yeah.
And so by the end of summer, she sold the other 3 paintings, wanted more. And of course, all hell breaks loose in my life. And there's challenges and responsibilities coming at me from different directions. Add the stress level, and it was like, God, I can't do this. But I kept pushing through, and what I had hoped would be I'd have art from June and be finished by September. I didn't get it delivered until December
Mm.
And even then, when I went, okay, this is cool, God too. It wasn't finished because a lot of what I do when I try new things, sometimes they work and sometimes they don't.
Right.
And the first dozen paintings that I did, literally each one of them got painted 4 times
Wow.
because I do something, it didn't work, so I just try again and try again. So the phosphorescence wasn't working well on this batch, and I didn't know why. I did try new products, so I didn't know if it was the products or if it was the technique. So
Hmm.
they weren't finished.
Right.
But she wanted to do an interview, so and out of the blue in October, my wonderful, amazing parents who are aging, and it's why I'm here in Florida to help them with, decided that I needed for what my dream is to have a decent vehicle, and they bought me a brand new car, a RAV4.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I'm like, I mean, like, no warning, no discussion, just, can you meet us at Toyota? Like, for
We've got
what?
some money to spend. We need to bless you, right? I
Yeah.
love it.
So because I had that car now, and we did measure so that my large canvases would fit in it.
Yeah, sure.
We didn't factor in the width of the canvas, so it was a 1/2 inch too big. So I had to tie the big one to the roof. Never done that before. That was a whole nother experience and a hoo-ha. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Southern women tying paintings on the top of their
That's right. That's right. I love it.
It was a joke. Okay, so, but it got there in one piece. That was the important part. Um, but I had just enough money to get to Santa Fe. Okay. In fact, I went up. Sometimes I'm a wee bit spacey. Okay. I don't know if any other artists are, but I am. And I had put the painting on top, but I was really excited because this car has a moonroof. And I thought, I can go stay at a state park and sleep in my car and look at the stars out west and actually see it all. But I covered it up with a painting on top of my car. And I'm like, oh dear God, face palm.
I love it. I love it.
But I still slept in my car in a state park that had nobody in it. And it didn't matter anyway, because cloud cover came in that night. I
Yeah.
couldn't see stars anyway. And I'm like, Lord, this just isn't fair. Every time I get to come out west, the first time it was a full moon. This time it was overcast. So I was like, one of these days I'm going to get to see the stars out west again. So I get in and I stop at a gas station. I put my makeup on and get ready for an interview when I arrive. Okay.
Right. Right.
So take a shower in a bathroom sort of thing, you know. I get there and we set up, we do the interview, and I have these unfinished paintings, and I brought them in just to be a part of the interview because they were so close. If you didn't know,
Yeah,
you
sure.
wouldn't know they weren't
Right.
finished. Well, I'm taking them down to put them back in the vehicle so I can go finish them before I leave. And not knowing how I'm going to do that because I have $20 to my name, and I kid you not. I don't
Wow.
have I was like, okay, God, I felt like this is what you really wanted me to do. I'm out on a limb here. And this couple that had come in during the interview that she entertained in the other building until we were finished, she said, oh, you got to put those back up. They want to see. And I'm like, okay. They were from Texas. And I said, okay. So we demonstrated. He buys one of the paintings for $3,900. And she's so gracious. She writes you the check right then.
Right then.
So
Right then.
Yeah, right then. So she wrote for my half. She wrote me the check right then. And so I was able to stay in Santa Fe for a week. I didn't see it. I just stayed there, and I finished those paintings and dropped them off. And I left her 7 paintings, and she has 2 left since the middle of December.
Wow.
She has sold them all. And if COVID hadn't hit, I have a feeling she'd have finished the rest of them.
Yeah.
And so I came home to some more health issues with family members, and spent Christmas and New Year's in the hospital. You know, it's like every time I have a breakthrough, everything goes crazy. And I say that because artists have to understand the enemy doesn't really want you to do
Sure.
what you're called to do. And if he can't get you one way, he'll try to get you another.
Right.
And he knows that. I know this is crazy. I sometimes hear what I call the near audible voice of God. I just have been in tune with him for so many years that I'll hear him speak in my head, not out loud. But I know it's not my own voice, and I don't know how to explain that. But I was at a stoplight. I wasn't praying. I wasn't in church. And he said, the devil's afraid of you. I said, do what? I looked around, I was like, what? He's like, yeah, he's afraid of you. I said, why? He said, because he can't stop you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You won't be stopped.
Well,
And
that's
I'm like,
the word I keep hearing through this whole interview. And I think I know people are resonating with this. Is just that tenaciousness. I call it spiritual grit. And,
yes,
because there is, I think, as much promise as we all have from the Lord, and as many prophetic words that people have had over them, and as many dreams as people have in their heart, unless you are willing to put, hand to the plow and begin to walk and tenaciously not give up, to have that spiritual grit, you will never, none of us will ever see the fullness of what God's got for us. It's that cooperation with Him, right? It's the promise, and then it's the walking out of the promise and leaning in. What would you say, Deborah, to somebody that, they're sitting at home right now and they're listening to this incredible story over these last few minutes, and they think, oh my gosh, could that ever happen for me? Could God ever open a door like this seemingly unreal door that God's opened up for you now in Santa Fe and all these other things that are happening? I mean, what would you say to that person that's sitting there thinking, maybe where you were 5 years ago, thinking, can God do anything with me?
it takes a yes.
Mm,
And that's all he's asking for, is he's inviting you in, and he's waiting on your yes.
yeah.
And a yes that, like you said, is willing to pay the cost. And there is one. It has not been an easy road. But one of the things that literally, obviously, because it's moving me to tears again, just thinking about it, as I took that second road trip to Santa Fe, we had a lot of time I had a lot of time in his presence, because
Yeah.
I'm not one that listens to the radio.
Right.
My
Sure.
car is kind of like my prayer closet. So we were talking, and one of the things that I think also I'd love to encourage others with is that I had this prophetic identity, and I had impacted all kinds of people. The God stories that go with that season are just phenomenal. And I still have people. I even received an email a couple months ago from a woman I gave a print to 10 years ago that said, it made no sense when you gave it to me. Couldn't figure out why you did. But I have lived that print, and I want to say
Wow.
thank you.
Wow.
So, it's just crazy what God will do. But that was my identity, Matt. That was who I was. I was a prophetic artist. Well, there's not a lot prophetic about a butterfly nebula, okay? I'm sorry, it's gorgeous. It's
Overtly, right? Overtly, but
right.
God does God does what God's going to do, right? I mean, that's the beauty of
Right.
art.
I'm declaring the glory of the heavens when I
Yeah.
paint His glory in the elements of the heavens. So, and it's also kind of like telling His story, because the light is so old. By the time it gets to us, it's literally history. This that we paint now doesn't exist anymore. Someone said that if you could see Earth from Andromeda, they'd see dinosaurs here. The light would be
Mm,
so old before it got there. That's what they
wow.
would see. So, but it's, I lost my train of thought. I do that. Um, anyway, to doing this in this trip, I was like, Lord, what's the purpose? What's the point?
Right.
I, to me, my art was my voice, and I feel like I had been silenced in my entire identity. Oh, and here was the other fun thing. All my prophetic art, I signed Christ to. I didn't even put my name on it. I
Right.
wanted to give Him all the glory for it, which was a
Right.
sincere desire of my heart. But He said, when you paint these, I want you to put your name on it, because it's time for you to come out from hiding behind me.
Come on.
And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah. So there's been all this internal work through all of this as well. So I laid down laid down my identity. And it was like I was obedient, but I didn't feel the God on it. I don't know how to
Mm,
explain it.
yeah. Yeah.
But when I made that trip, He said, Deb, what you don't realize is that you paint with me in my presence. And when you do, you impart my presence to that
Yeah.
which you paint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those paintings carry my presence where they go. And this artwork, He said, it's really not about you, and it's not about the art. It's the homes I want to get into.
That's
And
right.
this is a way that I can get past the door. And He said,
Come
what you
on.
don't realize is that my presence literally works like a plow on the hearts of the people in that home. and
Mm.
preparing them for the seeds that I'm going to be bringing into their lives.
Wow.
And it gave what I do purpose. And he knew
Yeah.
my heart. He knew I had to have purpose. If I
Yeah.
didn't have
Yeah.
purpose, I just don't do well. So, um,
Well, and I think I also hear you saying too, which I know so many artists struggle with, especially the ones that consider themselves quote unquote Christian artists or prophetic artists or that sort of thing. There's so many preconceived notions of what people are supposed to be doing or supposed to be creating or what it's supposed to look like or subject matter or that sort of thing. And I've always said, I believe God cares more that we create than what we create. It's about
yeah,
that co-laboring with him. And like for me, whether it's baskets or it's writing a book or whatever you're doing, it's about us offering God the opportunity to come into our creative expression, to not only transform us in the process of making it, but
isn't that the
also
truth?
allow him to release his goodness and his glory through what we do. And how
Yeah.
beautiful is that? And it's the mystery, I think, the beauty of the mystery as well, that you're like, I have no clue how God's going to use this. And yet he's using it in an
Yeah.
incredible way, in spite of me, in spite of my lack of understanding, which is so beautiful.
Yes. And so I guess that's what I was trying to say is that even when you don't understand,
Yeah.
if your yes and your obedience, at some point he will give you understanding.
Yeah.
And like I said, another opportunity last month opened, and the piece directly behind my head is headed to Naples, Florida, to a gallery there, also as a trial piece. So
Wow.
he's opening doors, and it's some of the prophetic words that I've received didn't make sense in the art that I did, but they do make sense with this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about where he's taking me and where I'm going. Um, and the other thing I'd love to encourage people doing without, um, don't be afraid of it
Mm.
because he's in it. Um, for the past 20 years, I literally have lived at a poverty level. But I've had food in my refrigerator. I've had a car to drive. I've had clothes in my closet and a roof over my head. And according to many, that makes me wealthier than 75% of the rest of the world.
Wow.
But in America, that's poor. I've gotten to do things that I never thought I would do, that I didn't have the resources to do, but he made possible. And yes, there are days I have pity parties because there are things I'd like to be different, but I wouldn't change any of it for where I am today and where I'm going because I'm still not there. I know that the next season, I'm hoping it's only 6 months, but God, he has his own timetable. Um, but there's a refining process yet because there's places I'm going. I have no clue where they are, but there's beliefs in my head that can't go with me.
Mm.
And he said, I need you to enter a season where your focus is you, me, and the art. And
Wow.
I'll take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's so
like,
good.
yeah. So will it be easy for me? No. Is it necessary? Yes.
Yes.
And I can't wait to see what's on the other side.
That's
But
right.
I'm going to have to get through it first. So I'm excited and a little bit I'm a lot out of my comfort zone.
But what a journey. What a journey.
Yeah, it is.
And what an
Oh, and by the
encouragement.
way, I have no resources to make this move either, but he knows,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, Lord, you made a way, you'll make the rest of the way.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
I,
He's the
I'm just,
source.
yeah. And learning that level of trust and learning that when I am anxious to ask him, where am I not trusting you?
Mm.
Because I wouldn't be anxious if I did.
Yeah.
And so
That's
that's
so good.
been a fun part of my journey too. But yeah, that's kind of, I skipped a whole lot of stuff, but trust me, there was a season that people called me Job, literally,
Wow.
because the
Wow.
cost of
Yeah.
and when I said everything, I mean, even the courts decided I was an unfit mom because I homeschooled and went where God told me to go. And they took my
Wow.
kids.
Wow.
So I've paid a dear price, but at the same time, really, it's still not the price he paid.
Yeah.
And um, he brought him back, and it
And
was
here you
just
are.
And here I am. So God is just good. And if we'll give him the opportunity to do that, but if we judge him by our circumstances, we'll judge him wrong every time.
That's good. Well, listen, this has been such an encouragement. I know folks are going to want to connect with you further on social media, your website and all that. So where's the best place that people can connect with you online?
Oh, if you put in Debra Lynn Studios, my Facebook page comes up automatically. I'm kind of tech savvy as a fence post. So my website has been in progress for 3 years. It's still not published. But I have to say, in my own defense, I have had to learn how to photograph my art. The photographs I have do not work on the website. And so when this is finished, I'm going to apply the new things I've learned. Hopefully I'll have images quality enough, and it will be launched soon, I hope, but I'm not holding my breath. But if it does, it'll be Debra Lynn Studios. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for sharing your story today and being on the podcast. I know it's going to be a huge, huge encouragement to so many that are walking this road, same road that you've been. So thanks for being on today.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt, for the things that, to believe it or not, a lot of what that story, how it unfolded, was the courage that I gained by being part of the mentoring program, and the things that you shared, and the wisdom that you shared, and the pushes that you gave that I didn't like at the time.
I was nice about it, though, wasn't I? I was nice about it.
Oh, you were nice, but it was so far out of my comfort zone. I thought you had a head full of rocks, but
I love it.
So, but the courage to do that, the courage to say, I am who I am, and it knows okay, but the answer is no unless I ask.
Yeah.
And that whole searching, Lord, I wanted to slap you silly when you kept driving home. You've got to find your niche, your purpose. Is like, dude, do you know how many things I've tried? But the truth, I have lived in finding it. Okay.
Yeah.
It took a while.
Yeah.
Once I have
well, it's like
found
that beautiful thing in Proverbs: it's the glory of God to conceal a matter. It's the glory of kings to search it out. I mean, it's in the searching, right? It's in the journey, in the knocking, in the walking that we find.
But it didn't change the fact that I wanted to slap you silly.
I hear you. Well, we've had a good time today. Thanks for being on. This has been fabulous.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed it too. And it is my prayer that people are encouraged. Don't give up, even when you hit enough roadblocks to make you think you can't take another step. Take it anyway.
Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today on the podcast. Listen, I hope it's been a huge encouragement to you on your journey as an artist. Hey, also, before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other episodes of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. And also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at my website, which is matttommymentoring.com. Until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye-bye.